we hear the sad news of the passing of legends. Today, the world says goodbye to remarkable souls who left their mark on history, hearts, and homes. In this video, we take a moment to remember them, to honor their legacy, their laughter, their love, and their light. Join us as we pay tribute to those we lost and celebrate the unforgettable lives they lived.
On July 2025, the toy world lost one of its greatest architects of imagination. Alan G. Hassenfeld, the former CEO and chairman of Hasbro, passed away at the age of 76. His name may not have appeared on toy boxes, but his vision, leadership, and heart helped shape the childhoods of millions around the globe. Born in 1949 into the storied Hassenfeld family, Alan inherited more than a business. He inherited a legacy of creativity, compassion, and innovation. His grandfather founded what would become Hasbro in 1923, and by the time Alan stepped into leadership in the late 1980s, the company was poised to become a titan in global entertainment. As CEO and chairman, Alan G. Hassenfeld didn't just maintain Hasbro's legendary brands, he revolutionized them. Under his leadership, Transformers, My Little Pony, G.I. Joe, and Monopoly weren't just toys, they became global franchises, crossing into television, movies, comics, and digital media. He saw before many others did that the future of play wasn't just plastic, it was storytelling. And so, Hasbro transformed from a toy manufacturer into a full-scale media empire. With Alan at the helm, Transformers launched into blockbuster cinema. My Little Pony became a cultural phenomenon with a passionate multi-generational fan base. Even Monopoly, the classic board game, found new life through branded editions, mobile apps, and adaptations. But Alan wasn't just about business. He was a philanthropist, a global citizen, and a passionate advocate for children's welfare, education, and health. He supported causes in Rhode Island, his home state, and around the world, often behind the scenes. With quiet generosity, he co-founded the Hassenfeld Family Foundation, backing initiatives in child healthcare, disaster relief, ethics in business, and global human rights. He believed deeply that companies could and should be forces for good. Alan was also a moral compass within the corporate world, often speaking out about the importance of corporate responsibility, ethical leadership, and empathy in capitalism. He once famously said, "We may make toys, but we are in the business of hope." Tributes poured in from across industries. Former Hasbro executives, global toy partners, film studios, and longtime employees spoke of a man who was both a visionary and a mentor. At Hasbro headquarters, a memorial wall now bears his image, flanked by the toys he helped make, famous a G.I. Joe, an Optimus Prime, a Pinkie Pie, and a Monopoly top hat. The company released a statement that read, "Alan Hassenfeld wasn't just our leader, he was our heart. His creativity powered our business. His compassion defined our culture. And his legacy will inspire us for generations." Fans also shared their memories, the toys they played with, the shows they grew up on, the films that sparked their imagination, all linked back to Hasbro's golden era under Alan's leadership. From playrooms in Tokyo to studios in Los Angeles, from boardrooms in Rhode Island to shelters supported by his donations, Alan G. Hassenfeld's impact is vast, deep, and lasting. Rest in peace, Alan. You didn't just build a company, you built worlds. You didn't just shape, elevated it. The toys we loved carry your spirit, and the joy you helped create will live on in every child's smile. In July 2025, television lost one of its quiet architects. David Flabot, the gifted screenwriter and TV producer who helped shape some of the most defining shows of the prestige era, passed away at the age of 65. With his passing, the industry says goodbye to a voice that understood both character and complexity, and helped television evolve into art. Born in the early 1950s, Flabot came from humble beginnings and started his career the old-school way, writing stand-up, crafting jokes, and slowly working his way into writers' rooms. He understood structure, rhythm, and how to make a line sing, but, more importantly, he understood people. That empathy would define his work. His early breakthrough came with Desperate Housewives, one of the most popular and genre-bending dramas of its time. Flabot helped write the twisted suburbia of Wisteria Lane, blending dark humor with sharp domestic drama in ways that made millions tune in and made the show an Emmy magnet. From there, his voice only deepened. He contributed to Boardwalk Empire, the Prohibition-era crime saga on HBO that earned widespread acclaim. In a show packed with moral gray zones and historical weight, Flabot's episodes stood out for their emotional nuance and narrative discipline. He went on to write and produce For Masters of Sex, the Showtime drama based on the lives of sex researchers William Masters and Virginia Johnson. The show was complicated, intellectual, and intimate, the kind of material Flabot thrived in. The scripts balanced the scientific and the sensual, the personal and the political. In 2017, he stepped into the spotlight as the creator and showrunner of I'm Dying Up Here, a raw Showtime drama about the stand-up comedy scene of 1970s Los Angeles. loosely inspired by real lives, including that of his mentor, Jim Carrey. The series was a passion project. It reflected his love of comedy and pain in equal measure. David Flabat wasn't a celebrity showrunner. He didn't seek red carpets or clickbait headlines, but in the writer's room, on set, and on the page, he was respected deeply. Actors trusted him. Writers admired him. Producers relied on him. He was known for elevating characters with inner conflict. The flawed, the striving, the had a place in his scripts. He wrote people, not stereotypes. In every episode he touched, you could feel his belief that TV could do more than entertain. It could reflect, challenge, and connect. When news of his death broke, tributes came swiftly from across Hollywood. Lizzie Kaplan, Michael Sheen, and Steve Buscemi were among many to share their memories of working with him. One writer who started under his wing posted, "David gave me my first shot and taught me how to write something that mattered." The Writers Guild of America honored him with a moment of silence and a posthumous celebration of his legacy, noting that David Flabat helped define the golden age of modern television, not with flash, but with feeling. His final project, reportedly in development before his passing, was said to explore themes of addiction, identity, and rebirth, proof that he was still evolving, still pushing boundaries. Behind the camera, David was warm, witty, and intensely loyal. He mentored dozens of young voices who now carry his influence into the next era of storytelling. Rest in peace, David Flabat. You didn't just write stories, you gave television a soul. The screen may fade to black, but your words will always roll on. On July 6, 2025, the world of golf bid farewell to one of its most quietly determined figures. Ed Fiori, a four-time PGA Tour champion, and the man famously remembered for halting the meteoric rise of Tiger Woods in 1996. Passed away at the age of 72, after a battle with cancer. Though never a flashy headline maker, Fiori's career was a testament to grit, patience, and perseverance, values that endure long after trophies fade. Born on April 21, 1953. In Linwood, California, Fiori grew up in the working-class suburbs of LA, where he picked up the game on public courses. While others chased stardom, Ed simply fell in love with golf's quiet discipline. He turned professional in 1977. Bringing with him a laid-back demeanor and an everyman's humility that made him a favorite among players and fans. Fiori's game wasn't built on power or flash but on consistency, touch, and nerve. He earned his first PGA Tour victory at the 1979 Southern Open and went on to win 3 more, including the 1981 Bob Hope Desert Classic and 1996 Quad City Classic, a tournament that would forever enshrine him in golf's annals. That 1996 win was no ordinary victory. The tournament was expected to be the coronation of a 20-year-old Tiger Woods, playing in just his 3rd PGA Tour event. The media was already building the legend, but Ed Fiori, at 43, wasn't ready to surrender. With poise and precision, he fended off the most hyped player in golf history, claiming a dramatic win that would be his last, but arguably his most meaningful. In later interviews, Fiori would reflect on that day with pride, saying, "They were ready to hand him the crown, but I knew how to win, too." That upset became part of golf folklore, not because it derailed Tiger, but because it showed just how deep the game's talent ran, and how one man's quiet resolve could silence even the loudest buzz. Ed's career was also marked by personal struggles. He faced back injuries, battled weight issues, and stepped away from the game at times to deal with his health. But he never lost his love for the sport. In his later years, he played on the Champions Tour, mentored young players, and stayed connected to the golf community through charity events and clinics. Off the course, Fiori was known for his gentle wit, devotion to family, and love of fishing, a passion, he often said, kept him grounded through the highs and lows of professional golf. When news of his death spread, golf legends and fans alike paid tribute. Jack Nicklaus tweeted, "Ed Fiori was a competitor, a gentleman, and a reminder that quiet strength always matters." His legacy won't be measured solely in victories or endorsements, but in moments like that Sunday in 1996, when a veteran reminded the world that the game doesn't follow scripts. It rewards heart. Ed Fiori's swing was never the flashiest, his voice was never the loudest, but his presence on the course was undeniable, and his impact on the game remains. Rest in peace, Ed Fiori. You played with dignity, won with class, and taught us that every chapter, no matter how unlikely, deserves to be written. On July 2025, Edward D. DePreet, former governor of Rhode Island, passed away at the age of 91, closing a chapter in the political history of the Ocean State. He served Rhode Island with conviction, navigating both applause and controversy across a public life that left an indelible mark on the region he called home. Born in Cranston, Rhode Island, in 1934, Edward DePreet was a true son of the state. He came from modest beginnings, attended College of the Holy Cross, and later became a successful businessman before stepping into the political arena. His early career on the Cranston City Council and later as mayor of Cranston prepared him for the statewide stage. In 1984, DePreet won election as governor of Rhode Island, ushering in a new Republican leadership during a time of fiscal challenge and development needs. He would go on to serve 3 consecutive terms, 1985 to 1991, making him one of the longest-serving governors in the state's history. DePreet's tenure focused heavily on infrastructure, education reform, and economic development. He pushed for modernization of the state's highways and public buildings, bolstered job training programs, and sought to make Rhode Island more attractive to businesses. Under his leadership, the state saw increased investment in transportation and public works, a legacy still visible today in roads, schools, and civic spaces. But like many long careers in politics, DePreet's was not without turbulence. In the mid-1990s, he became the subject of a statewide investigation into political corruption. Ultimately, he pleaded guilty to reduced charges of bribery related to state contract awards during his time in office. Though the scandal marred his legacy, DePreet served his sentence, expressed public remorse, and later lived quietly with family, still engaging with local civic life when called upon. For some, he remained a reminder of Rhode Island's challenging era of political accountability. For others, especially in his hometown of Cranston, he was remembered as a devoted public servant who helped lead the state through a period of growth and transformation. Following his passing, tributes emerged from both sides of the political aisle. Former governors, Rhode Island lawmakers, and longtime residents recalled a man who fought hard for his ideas, who believed in modernization, and who was deeply proud of his heritage. The State House flew flags at half-staff, and local newspapers revisited his terms in office with a tone of balance, acknowledging both his achievements and the lessons his fall from grace taught future generations of public leaders. At his private funeral, held in Cranston, former colleagues and family members reflected on the totality of his life. One longtime friend said, "Ed believed in Rhode Island. Even when the headlines faded, he never stopped caring about this place." Edward D. DePreet leaves behind a complex but undeniably impactful legacy. He was a man of ambition, vision, and contradiction, capable of progress, humbled by consequence. In many ways, his life mirrors the story of Rhode Island itself, resilient, striving, and always in motion. Rest in peace, Governor DePreet. In triumph and in trial, you served, and your chapter remains part of the state's enduring history. On July 2025, the final curtain fell on one of the most influential and controversial figures in American televangelism. Jimmy Swaggart, renowned preacher, gospel musician, and television evangelist, passed away at the age of 90 from natural causes, bringing to a close a life marked by soaring heights, staggering falls, and unwavering faith. Born on March 15, 1935. In Ferriday, Louisiana, Jimmy Lee Swaggart came from a deeply musical and religious family. His cousins included fellow legends Jerry Lee Lewis and Mickey Gilley. But while they turned to rock and country, Jimmy chose the pulpit and piano-fusing sermon and song in a way that would define his career. Swaggart began preaching in small churches across the Deep South in the 1950s, often traveling with nothing but his Bible and a battered piano. His raw, emotional preaching and powerful musical performances caught the attention of rural congregations. By the 1970s, with the rise of Christian television, Swaggart took his message to the airwaves and into millions of American homes. The height of his influence in the 1980s. The Jimmy Swaggart telecast aired in over 100 countries, reaching an estimated 8 million viewers weekly. His ministry, based in Baton Rouge, employed thousands and included a Bible college, global missions outreach, and massive gospel crusades. Swaggart's voice, equal parts thunder and weeping, became instantly recognizable. He delivered fiery sermons on sin and salvation, often followed by soul-stirring performances of hymns like I Surrender All or Jesus, Just a Mention of Your Name. His ministry raised millions, built cathedrals, and brought Pentecostal preaching into the mainstream. But in 1988, Swaggart's empire was rocked by scandal. A high-profile morality controversy led to his temporary defrocking by the Assemblies of God and public downfall. Tearfully confessing in a televised moment watched by millions, Swaggart said the now infamous words, "I have sinned against you, my Lord." Though his reputation was damaged, Swaggart never left the pulpit. He rebuilt his ministry independently, retaining a loyal base of followers who saw in him not hypocrisy, but human frailty met with repentance. In the decades that followed, he continued to preach, publish gospel albums, and lead services from Family Worship Center in Baton Rouge. Over the years, Swaggart released more than 50 gospel albums, many of which topped Christian music charts. He remained a beloved musician, known for his stirring piano improvisations and impassioned vocals. For many, his music spoke when words failed. His life was a contradiction, avowed and flawed, celebrated and condemned. Yet no one could deny his impact. Swaggart helped popularize televangelism, inspired countless preachers, and brought Pentecostal fire to living rooms around the globe. In his final years, he stayed largely out of the media spotlight, choosing, instead, to minister to his congregation and play music in smaller settings. At 90, he passed peacefully, surrounded by loved ones and the ministry he never truly left. Tributes poured in from church leaders, gospel singers, and even former critics who acknowledged the enormity of his cultural and spiritual reach. Rest in peace, Jimmy Swaggart, the man with the trembling voice, the pianist of praise, the preacher who fell and rose again. Your journey was complicated. Your influence, undeniable. On July 5, 2025, the entertainment world lost a magnetic and enduring presence. Julian McMahon, the Australian-American actor known for his seductive charm and complex characters in Nip Tuck, Charmed, and Fantastic Four, passed away at the age of 56 in Clearwater, Florida, after a private battle with cancer. His passing shocked fans and colleagues alike, many unaware that the actor had been quietly waging a fight behind the scenes. Born on July 27, 1968, in Sydney, Australia, Julian Dana William McMahon was the son of Sir William McMahon, former Prime Minister of Australia. Despite his political pedigree, Julian chose a dramatically different path, stepping away from the world of suits and power, and into the world of modeling and screen stardom. He began as a fashion model, gracing runways across Europe before making a name for himself in Australian television. But it was his move to the United States that transformed him from rising star to international heartthrob. In the late 90s, he captured attention as the mysterious coal-turner on Charmed, the WB's supernatural drama. His portrayal of the conflicted demon-turned-lover of Phoebe Halliwell made him a fan favorite. Audiences were drawn to his brooding intensity, emotional depth, and undeniable chemistry with co-star Alyssa Milano. Cole became one of TV's most iconic anti-heroes, and McMahon's face was soon on bedroom posters and magazine covers worldwide. But it was his role as Dr. Christian Troy in the groundbreaking FX series Nip Tuck, 2003 to 2010, that solidified Julian's place in TV history. As the arrogant yet deeply wounded plastic surgeon, McMahon brought to life a character of rare complexity, equal parts charming and cruel, seductive and shattered. The show pushed boundaries, and so did he. His performance earned him critical acclaim, a Golden Globe nomination, and a cult following. He also stepped into the Marvel Universe, portraying Victor Von Doom in Fantastic Four 2005 and its sequel. Though the films received mixed reviews, McMahon's chilling charisma as Doom stood out. He brought gravitas to the comic book world before it became the blockbuster juggernaut it is today. Over his career, McMahon starred in dozens of projects from Profiler and Runaways to FBI, Most Wanted, where he played a leading role until 2022. He was known on set as gracious, professional, and intensely focused, a scene partner who always elevated those around him. Julian lived much of his later life away from the spotlight, preferring time with family and supporting causes related to cancer research and youth mental health. Those close to him described him as introspective, spiritual, and fiercely devoted. To his daughter and wife, news of his passing prompted an outpouring of grief and remembrance. Ryan Murphy, creator of Nip Tuck, wrote, "Julian gave life to a character that changed the landscape of TV drama. He was fearless, and he was kind." Fans across the globe flooded social media with scenes from Charmed, gifs from Nip Tuck, and heartfelt messages. In his roles, Julian McMahon often played the flawed, the damaged, the dangerously beautiful. In life, he was a man who carried himself with quiet grace even in pain. Julian once said in an interview, "I like characters who walk the edge because that's where you find what's real." Rest in peace, Julian McMahon. Your screen may have dimmed, but your legacy burns ever bright in memory, in performance, and in the hearts of millions who walked that edge with you. On July 3, 2025, in Malibu, California, the screen went a little darker. Michael Madsen, the rugged gravel-voiced actor who embodied the tortured anti-hero in films like Reservoir Dogs, Kill Bill, and The Hateful Eight, passed away at the age of 67. The cause was heart failure, brought on by long-term heart disease and complications related to alcohol. His death marked the end of a cinematic chapter that could only have been written in blood, sweat, and grit. Born on September 25, 1957. In Chicago, Illinois, Michael Madsen was the embodiment of working-class cool. The son of a firefighter and a filmmaker, he gravitated toward performance not for fame but for expression. He began his acting career on the stage, training at Chicago's Steppenwolf Theater under the eye of John Malkovich, before breaking into Hollywood in the early 1980s. His breakthrough came in 1992 with Quentin Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs. As Mr. Blonde, Madsen turned a psychopathic gangster into a chilling icon. The infamous "stuck in the middle with you" torture scene etched him into film history. From that moment on, Madsen was that Githa intense, unpredictable presence who could shift a film's energy with a single stare. He followed it with a series of unforgettable roles: The Protective Father, Bud, and Kill Bill Volume 2. Joe Gage and the Hateful Eight, and appearances in films like Donnie Brasco, Sin City, Wyatt Earp, and Thelma and Louise. He worked with directors like Oliver Stone, Robert Rodriguez, and Ridley Scott, but Madsen wasn't just a character actor, he was a poet, photographer, and father of 6. He published multiple books of poetry, often deeply personal, drawing from his struggles, regrets, and reflections on fame. His voice, both on screen and in print, carried the weight of a man who had lived hard and never pretended otherwise. His battles with addiction were well known, as were the personal losses that haunted him, most recently the tragic death of his son, Hudson, but even as he struggled, he continued to work. 2 friends, he was loyal, sensitive, and fiercely devoted to his craft. 2 fans, he was a cult hero, Hollywood's weathered cowboy, the man who refused to be tamed. Following his death, tributes poured in. Quentin Tarantino, in a rare emotional statement, wrote, "Michael was more than a muse, he was family. Every frame he touched had soul, I loved him." Samuel L. Jackson, Uma Thurman, and Tim Roth shared memories from sets filled with chaos, humor, and raw honesty. Film festivals across the world announce retrospective screenings of his greatest works, celebrating the man behind the menace. For all his edge, Madsen's performances were often rooted in vulnerability. His characters were rarely heroes, but they were never flat villains. There was always a glimmer of something broken, something human. That's what made him unforgettable. In his final years, Madsen appeared in several independent projects, always bringing the same unpredictable intensity. He once said, "I didn't want to be famous, I wanted to be respected." And he was, by fans, filmmakers, and anyone who ever believed in the poetry of damaged souls. Rest in power, Michael Madsen. Hollywood has lost one of its true outlaws. But your voice, your presence, your truth, they will echo through the reels forever. On a quiet morning in July 2025, the literary world lost a master of language, memory, and the American West. Paulette Giles, the award-winning poet and novelist behind News of the World, passed away at the age of 82. Her words carved beauty into the starkest landscapes, and her voice stood among the finest of modern American literature. Born in Salem, Missouri, in 1943, Paulette Giles grew up with a deep connection to land, language, and history. A gifted student with a love for both science and art, she would eventually earn a degree in Romance languages and become fluent in multiple tongues. Her early years were spent working for the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation and teaching in remote Indigenous communities, experiences that would forever shape her worldview and later work. She began her career as a poet, earning critical praise for her lyrical command of the English language, but it was as a novelist that she found her widest audience, drawing on themes of survival, loss, dignity, and freedom across sweeping, deeply human narratives. Her breakout novel, Enemy Women, set during the American Civil War, won the PEN USA Award and announced her arrival as a distinctive voice in historical fiction. Yet, it was her 2016 masterpiece, News of the World, that brought her international acclaim. The novel told the story of Captain Jefferson, Kyle Kidd, an aging Civil War veteran who travels across Texas reading newspapers aloud for a living, and his unexpected bond with a 10-year-old girl, once raised by the Kiowa. It was a tale of redemption, storytelling, and found family, written in prose that was both spare and luminous. In 2020, News of the World was adapted into a feature film starring Tom Hanks. The movie introduced Giles' work to a broader audience, but those who read the novel knew no screen could match the quiet majesty of her words. The film's success sparked a renewed interest in her earlier works, including The Color of Lightning, Simon the Fiddler, and Stormy Weatherreach, one a testament to her deep empathy for history's overlooked voices. Paulette Giles was often described as reclusive, preferring the solitude of her ranch in Texas Hill Country to the spotlight of book tours. There, surrounded by the terrain she so often wrote about, she continued to write, read, ride horses, and reflect. Her discipline was legendary longhand manuscripts, deep historical research, and endless revisions. She believed deeply in honoring the truth of the past, no matter how painful or complex. In the days following her passing, literary communities and book clubs worldwide lit up with tributes. Fellow authors praised her elegance, integrity, and fearless exploration of American identity. Tom Hanks, her cinematic collaborator, wrote, "She gave us a gift, the truth of the human heart, told with grace. I am honored to have helped bring her words to the screen." Her publishers announced that she had been working on one final manuscript, one more tale of the forgotten corners of the West, told with poetic fire and quiet compassion. Whether or not it will be published remains unknown, but her legacy is already complete. Paulette Giles wrote with the eye of a historian, the soul of a poet, and the voice of a frontier witness. She captured the stillness between storms, the courage in the dust, and the meaning in the margins. Rest in peace, Paulette Giles. The land you loved will echo with your stories, and your readers will carry your voice across generations. *. On July 2025, the world of political commentary lost one of its sharpest pens and boldest voices. Steve Benson, the Pulitzer Prize-winning cartoonist whose ink brought truth to power, passed away at the age of 71. With each bold line and biting caption, he challenged, provoked, and informed a nation. Born in Salt Lake City, Utah, in 1954, Steve Benson came from a prominent and complex family legacy. His grandfather was former LDS Church President Ezra Taft Benson, but Steve would forge a very different path, one grounded in truth-seeking, satire, and fearless critique. He began his career as a journalist and editorial cartoonist in the late 1970s, and by 1980, he joined the Arizona Republic, where he would build a decades-long legacy. His style was immediately recognizable, expressive, energetic, and unapologetically bold. He didn't just draw cartoons, he made statements. In 1993, Benson was awarded the Pulitzer Prize for editorial cartooning, one of journalism's highest honors. The Pulitzer Committee recognized his unmatched ability to combine artistry with sharp political insight, especially during times of national tension and transformation. His work captured the absurdity of politics without ever losing sight of the human consequences behind policy and power. His cartoons skewered both sides of the aisle. Presidents, governors, senators, judges, no one was immune to his pen. Yet while his satire could sting, it was never empty mockery. It was rooted in civic responsibility, driven by a desire to hold leaders accountable and uplift the voices of everyday Americans. Over the years, Benson's cartoons were syndicated nationwide, appearing in major publications like The Washington Post, Los Angeles Times, and USA Today. He tackled everything from wars and civil rights to climate change, religious extremism, and local corruption. In Arizona, he believed editorial cartooning was not just an art form, but a form of resistance. He was also no stranger to controversy. His fearless criticism, especially of organized religion and political hypocrisy, drew backlash, but he never backed down. In interviews, he often said, "If I'm making everyone a little uncomfortable, I'm doing my job right." In his personal life, Steve Benson was thoughtful, passionate, and deeply principled. He publicly broke with the LDS Church, using his own experience to speak out about freedom of belief and conscience. He gave lectures at journalism schools, mentored young cartoonists, and fought to keep editorial cartooning alive in an era of shrinking newsrooms. In his later years, Benson shifted to digital platforms, continuing to publish searing work online for a dedicated following. He remained as sharp as ever, using technology to amplify his voice while staying true to his print roots. Following news of his death, tributes came from journalists, cartoonists, political leaders, and free speech advocates. The Association of American Editorial Cartoonists released a statement. Steve Benson was a lion with a sketchpad. He drew not just what we saw, but what we needed to see. His desk, filled with ink-stained drafts and unfinished sketches, now stands still, but his work lives on pinned 2 bulletin boards, saved in scrapbooks, shared across classrooms and social feeds. Steve Benson didn't just draw history, he shaped how we understood it. Rest in power. Steve, the world is quieter without your pen, but the truths you captured will echo for generations. On July 4, 2025, the hip-hop world lost a quiet warrior. Young Noble, born Rufus Cooper III, passed away at the age of 47 in Atlanta. His death ruled a suicide. As a founding member of the Outlaws, the collective handpicked by Tupac Shakur, Noble helped define an era of raw honesty, revolutionary spirit, and loyalty in rap. Born on March 21, 1978, in Rancho Cucamonga, California, Noble rose from the margins of mainstream music to stand beside one of hip-hop's most iconic voices. Introduced to Tupac through Mutable, Napoleon, he quickly became part of the Outlaw Immortals, adopting the name Young Noble. In line with the group's revolutionary alias tradition, his debut came on one of the most haunting and powerful albums in hip-hop history, the Don Killuminati, The 7-Day Theory. Released posthumously by Tupac in 1996, under his alias Mac, Noble's verses on tracks like Hail Mary and Life of an Outlaw were fierce, introspective, and carried the weight of a young man shaped by injustice, loyalty, and the burden of loss. After Tupac's death, Noble remained committed to preserving his brother's message, truth, resistance, and self. Alongside fellow Outlaws members, he released multiple albums that kept the flame alive, including Still I Rise, Outlaw for Life, and Against All Odds. He never sought chart dominance, only authenticity. Through his lyrics, interviews, and presence in the hip-hop underground, Young Noble earned deep respect. He was quietly prolific, often preferring to release independent projects that focused on community upliftment, Black unity, and personal growth. Albums like Son of God and Immortal Outlaw spoke to a man evolving, still raw, still principled, but reflective. Beyond music, Noble was known for his wisdom, humility, and unwavering support for the next generation of artists. He mentored young rappers, collaborated with socially conscious voices, and advocated for financial literacy. ownership, and mental health within hip-hop culture. His passing sent shockwaves through the music industry. Snoop Dogg, E40, T.I., and Chuck D were among the many who shared tributes not just to his talent, but to his soul. Snoop's words captured the grief best. Young Noble was a real one. Mental health ain't no joke. We gotta check on our strong ones too. Fans lit candles, painted murals, and flooded social media with lyrics that helped them through hard times. In Atlanta and LA, memorial ciphers and gatherings honored his legacy the only way he would have wanted, through words, truth, and rhythm. In the days since, Noble's family and close friends have called for increased mental health support for artists, especially in hip-hop, where pressure and pain often stay buried behind bravado. Young Noble's life was defined not by headlines, but by heart. He was a soldier in Tupac's vision of upliftment, and he carried that torch long after the spotlight faded. His final verses, shared in a recent interview, echoed with prophetic calm. I gave what I had to give. If I helped just one soul, I did my part. Rest in power, young Noble. You walked with giants, stood on principle, and left behind truth. In every bar, the mission continues through those you inspired. Outlaw for life.